My sister orchestrated a family intervention to get me to leave my partner of 4 years. This has been sitting in my drafts for 6 months now. I, 25F, met my partner, 29M, in 2020 while I was finishing my undergrad studies, and we were both in the same field. Our first conversations were deep, about our personal philosophies, culture, faith, and our views on the world, and we quickly realized that our values aligned so well. He's funny, attentive, smart, talented, and ambitious, and I was so in love. I still am. We made it official 2 months in. And low-key, we both knew we wanted to marry each other already, but of course, we didn't rush as we were still finishing up school. We have the same religious background but not the same ethnicity, and for this reason, both of us were nervous to tell our parents about our relationship because we didn't know how they'd react. Most ethnic parents would want their kids to keep it within the culture, but from what I know, they may be stubborn at first but will come around eventually. Right? For me, ethnicity is a non-issue. We're both religious, so having the same faith is more important in my opinion. I thought my parents would think the same. Because if they're so religious too, then they shouldn't place their cultural values over their faith. Anyway, my partner didn't wait too long to tell his parents. They and his siblings were very supportive and welcomed me with open arms. I, on the other hand, hesitated for the longest time because I really had no idea how my parents would react. I'm a bit fearful of them, and honestly, my relationship with my parents isn't that close. Of course they're caring and all, but not in an emotional way where I can come up to them and be vulnerable about something. Definitely not my dad. This is where I'm at fault, because even if it was hard for me to be honest with them, I should have just done so instead of hiding my relationship from them. My siblings knew before my parents. They didn't care, but my sister, 29, on the other hand, being the eldest, aka the third parent, was too panicked about it and advised me to just end the relationship because an interracial marriage is going to be complicated. But that's not the advice I needed, and I didn't want to just end the relationship either. I truly believe he's my soulmate. Her entire attitude towards it was kinda just, I gave you my 2 cents, I don't want to be involved in this mess. I think it was a year into our relationship when my mom found a birthday card from my partner in my room. She found my stash of greeting cards from him and read them all. She confronted me with them, and she wasn't even mad, but when I told her about his ethnicity, she freaked out. She made me tell my dad, and he just LOL'd in my face and didn't even let me talk. It took a couple of days for my mom to calm down because, honestly, she really was overreacting. The conclusion was that they weren't happy with the relationship and wanted me to end it. I didn't want to, of course. It was swept under the rug, and for the next 3 years, my partner and I continued our relationship, and even went on some trips together, but my parents were in the dark about the specifics of it all. Which, of course, the dishonesty is very wrong, but in my mind, they didn't create a safe space for me to be honest with them. I couldn't just tell them, oh hey, I'm going out for dinner and he's going to be there. Bye, love you, XO. The conversation about us would only be brought up occasionally during those 3 years, because at this point, he and I are ready to get engaged and we just need my dad's blessing. It would always end in an argument, feelings hurt, and no blessings given. They refused to even meet him. I'm still being patient and holding out hope that my dad will come around or something. By mid-2024, my dad hadn't properly spoken to me in about 2 years, but my mom, on the other hand, is a lot more understanding. I wouldn't say she's supportive, but understanding at least. In her words, she just wants to help me avoid an unsuccessful marriage because, in her mind, interracial marriages just don't work. But if I'm so sure about him, then she will be by my side, and if it fails, she'll be there with open arms. My parents are traditional, but she's always been the more level-headed one between them, besides that freak out the first time. Now the catastrophe. At the end of 2024, my sister suddenly stepped in and asked to meet my partner. She's my dad's favorite, and if there's one person who could sway his thoughts, it would be her. So this opportunity excited me and my partner because it finally felt like there was light at the end of this tunnel. We have been patient, but the stress of all of this was starting to put a strain on our relationship, especially in the last 2 years. But we loved each other a lot and didn't want to let go no matter what, and we would always work things out with communication. My sister and he met up and talked for hours. I wasn't there. But it went well, and he left a good impression on her, and she said she'll talk to my dad. Side note, he and I discussed beforehand that we don't need to disclose how many times we saw each other or what trips he was involved with. We know the dishonesty and hiding was wrong, but we felt like we were entitled to that privacy at the very least. He's the type that loves honesty and just says, screw what people think, but I just didn't believe honesty works with my parents, especially my dad, because he's someone that's very critical and will shame you for your different values, beliefs, whatever. Now, I thought things would be dandy from here on, but my sister was acting weird and distant, and when I would ask her what's wrong, she would brush it off. 3 weeks of this passed, and it's the new year now. My mom sent me off to do some errands for her at a suspicious time of the day, and I really felt like something was off. I come back home, and my parents and siblings are all in the living room telling me, "Sit down, we need to talk." My heart dropped. They said they hired an investigator to find out everything about my partner and what our relationship entailed. That was a lie, of course. My parents didn't want to admit it was my sister who went through my devices, looked through all my messages and emails, and ransacked my entire room. She proudly admitted to it later. And from their findings, they concluded that he's a liar, a gaslighter, a manipulator, and that I'm a victim of this relationship. They said they found out about all our dates and trips and were holding him accountable for it, that I was forced to lie and do things against my will, and that him showering me with gifts is just a way to manipulate me. A lot was said, and I just felt embarrassed and humiliated. It was 6 against 1, and I couldn't say anything to defend myself or him. I felt like I was being stripped naked as they went on and on and on about what they uncovered and whatever conclusions they drew from them. He and I are semi-long distance, so most of our talks are through texts. For them to read everything, like my vulnerable side that I only felt comfortable showing him, our intimate conversations, our arguments where we both showed some really ugly sides of us, it just felt so invasive. They claimed he's putting a wedge between me and them and that I was ruining the family peace. They wanted me to feel shame, and it worked. In the end, I was given an ultimatum, and I felt like I had no other choice but to just agree with them and leave him. I was numb. They made me block him, and my sister texted him that we're over and threatened to file a restraining order if he were to come near me. He didn't answer that text. I was numb, and I couldn't even cry anymore. I surrendered. I couldn't even fight anymore. At that point, I was just nodding and agreeing to whatever they said. The following days, they were so nice to me because I was a good daughter and I complied with them. And they were the heroes who saved me from a toxic man. But I'm on house arrest and on close watch. I have to hand over my phone when they ask so that they can make sure I never reach out to him. My soulmate was ripped away from me, and I didn't know what to do. 2 to 3 weeks later, I woke up a little from my numbness. I was angry. I was angry at my sister for betraying my trust. I was angry at my father for being so bigoted. I was angry at all of them for invading my privacy. I was angry at the entire situation because it's not my fault they never gave me the support and comfort to even be honest with them. I made mistakes, but I blame them for it. I cried to my mom about it, and I told her, "You know what? I don't care if you guys think he's a bad person. I would rather learn that on my own than be forced to leave him and regret it my entire life. They treat me like a kid." I told her I will always be angry at them for what they did. She urged me to talk to my dad again and tell him what I told her. She told me I should just proceed with marrying my partner against their wishes and accept any consequences. She told me she'll be by my side. Before I talked to my dad, I sent him a letter through text. We're both non-confrontational people, so I felt like this would be a good way to express my feelings. I apologized deeply for everything. I clarified that I never meant disrespect to him or my family members. I put anger aside for this letter because anger doesn't work with a stubborn man like my dad. I try to be vulnerable. I try to tell him that all I want is their support and trust in me. My dad didn't give an answer to that letter, but he forwarded it to my sister, and she blew up on me by text and called me a manipulator for sending that letter. Her words were so nasty. She had never made me cry as much as she did back then. My dad came to my room afterward to talk, or rather, yell, at me. I had never cried so much. Whoever that was in front of me wasn't my dad. I never knew he could be so cruel. He threatened to leave my mom and tear this family apart if I chose to be with my partner. I'm broken and numb, and I've never felt so alone. I don't know what to do. Update 1. Hi guys, I really do apologize for the late update. I really did not expect my post to get that many replies, but I'm so grateful for all the advice you guys gave me. Thank you. When I wrote that first post, I was all emotional and depressed, so reading it now, even I can sense the "oh, poor me" tone in it. January me was probably expecting lots of sympathy or whatever, but you guys were harsh and, to be honest, I needed to hear that. You guys are completely right. While what my family did was evil and wrong, my life is in my hands, and it's my fault for not stepping up for myself and my partner sooner. I can't keep expecting things to be done for me. I wanted to make this post to clarify some things and update you about what has happened since January. It may not be the most satisfying update, but I have at least changed a lot since then. First of all, I am still in contact with my partner. I don't blame you for assuming otherwise since that post was uploaded months later, so it was pretty confusing. When my family did the whole thing of making me block him everywhere and take my devices, and basically threatened me not to talk to him, that lasted maybe 3 days. It was in the middle of the night. I was crying hard because I missed him, but also because I was here, alone, extremely heartbroken, just wishing someone would hold me and show some sort of real care toward me and what I was going through. And I realized, wow, my family really doesn't give a crap about me. Like, at least check up on me? When they would, it was more of a just making sure you know your place type of checking up on me. So I reached out to him and told him everything. There was a lot of I told you so from him, and I really do give him a lot of credit for putting up with my bullcrap. My entire life, I was trained like a monkey, as one of the comments said, to be obedient for literally minimal reward. And I thought if I was just gentle with my approach and still did everything they wanted from me, I would get what I wanted in the end because I earned it, right? No. And this is not a unique experience, unfortunately. This is so common with people in many cultures because parents, for some reason, believe they are entitled to make choices for their adult children. My partner was understanding and helped me finally see that the environment I'm living in is toxic and abusive, and no amount of obedience and kindness is going to make them respect me. I've been getting therapy for months now, and, shocker, it really helps. I would always question what I did wrong and how I could approach them differently to get different results. I would always question why my sister would betray me like that. I would always question why my father would tell me I deserved to be hurt, and so many other questions. But I've let go of caring for any sort of answer now. I've let go of the idea that I need any approval from them. I've let go of ever having a civil conversation with them. I've let go of any expectations. I still live with them, unfortunately. I don't talk with my dad, and I don't talk with my sister. I keep things cordial with my mom, but I don't trust confiding in her anymore because, at the end of the day, she feels the need to side with her husband. Her 60-year-old man-child of a husband that's been verbally abusing her for years now and throwing tantrums anytime things don't go his way, but instead of making him aware of himself, my sister and mom just choose to give him what he wants no matter who it hurts. I still have 2 years of education with no income, and I need this degree for my career, so it wouldn't make sense to drop out temporarily. But I'm working on trying to find something on the side to depend on and move out as soon as I can. To everyone saying he should leave me, I agree. Any man would've. Good thing he's an angel. Edit, I'm going to have to minimize engaging with the comments. I appreciate those who were supportive and offered great advice, but the rest just sound like my parents and sister. It's hard enough to heal from the guilt and shame my parents subjected me to. I don't need strangers calling me a moron and manipulative. As many pointed out, here or on Baru, there's a cultural element here that explains why family opinions are so deeply involved in everything, and it's so normalized. Not saying it's justifiable or right, and I've always hated a lot of these practices because they're invasive and, to be honest, made up. But it's not easy to detach from the herd, and I genuinely don't know what kind of harm would come my way when I do so recklessly. All I can do right now is heal, build my strength and financial independence, and make my move as soon as I can. I'll update you all when things are significantly better. Final update, my last big update was last summer. All the comments were telling me to move out. I explained before why that wouldn't be immediately possible for 2 main reasons: my postgraduate studies, which can't be postponed or moved online, and some cultural context. Any Middle Eastern or South Asian person would probably understand. So, I resumed my studies in September. It drained the life out of me, which was expected. Professors are a-holes, I had no motivation or passion, and I tried to maintain a civil relationship with my family members. There were obviously always remarks thrown at me, and they were intense about monitoring me. Dad doesn't talk to me, but the threat of being kicked out of the house was always in the back of my mind. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in previous posts, but after an argument about some random person's proposal, I began putting my things away just in case. I would store them in a large locker I had at school. Maybe I'm a good liar, or I'm just used to having to mask stuff. I tried to just smile and live day by day, but inside I was stressed, angry, hurt, betrayed, and it was deteriorating me. If those emotions showed, my mom was always quick to remind me that I was wrong and not to discuss this matter with anyone. Lamau. I don't know how I thought I would survive mentally until I graduated, so I tried to think of another plan. Moving out as a woman in my culture for no reason would cause problems, so I tried to look for a good summer job in another city because that would be a valid reason. I told my parents about it, but once they found out it was coincidentally in my partner's city, they blew up. I was too fed up at that point. I blew up at my mom and told her the truth, that the environment at home was draining me. I hated how everyone had moved past what happened so quickly while I had to deal with it on my own. Even a year later, There had been no acknowledgement on their end about how much it had affected me because they expected me to just take it. To be honest, I was a mess and didn't articulate it this well. Mom called me malicious for holding a grudge. She said I was wrong for feeling this way. Just simply wrong, lol. I said I just needed a break, some isolation. She went off at me about how she didn't trust me to live alone because she thought I was a whore. Well, she didn't exactly say that, but she was heavily implying it. Anyway, she went off for a while about my character, manners, faith, and all that stuff, and how I wasn't living up to her standards and had changed. Like, the answer is right there, but parents' sense of entitlement is way too large for them to see how they've harmed someone. Dad's only comments were that I was insolent and disrespectful and that I could leave if I wanted to, but I was no longer welcome home and I was no longer his daughter. The argument didn't go anywhere, as usual, and it was the weekend that I had to move. So, midday, while everyone was out, I took my things and left. Obviously, everyone made a big deal about it. They called, spammed me, yelled, and blah blah blah. Honestly, I'm desensitized to their consistent catastrophic reactions to everything. They made it sound like I ran away when I literally told them it was happening. Anyway, I spent the summer in a normal routine, working during the week and sometimes visiting home on the weekends. Much to my dad's dismay, I'm sure. The visits genuinely felt forced, like no one wanted me there but they'd rather have me there than allow me to be free. But to me, it's proving that I can maintain my ties to my family despite all the hurt I feel, whether I'm right for feeling that way or not. Eventually, I sent a small text telling my mom that I want to get married and that I'm tired of this discussion. Since then, it's just been everyone involving themselves, giving their opinions, your poor parents, attacks on my character, attacks on my partner, attacks on the way I dress, how dare you choose him over family, you're never going to be blessed in anything in life, a marriage that starts off like this is bound to fail, you're not welcome in my home either, and the works. Is it hurtful? Yes. But it's becoming easier and easier to just let it go in one ear and out the other. I never chose a man over my family. I would have both if it were up to me, but they've made it clear that their love and support are conditional. Anyway, that's about it. Definitely not the end of the problems, but at least I've distanced myself from it, and I no longer engage with their discussions. My partner and I both agree that we'll always be open to peace, but they need to want it too. One thing I do agree with, I don't like my character either. I'm bad at communication, I get angry quickly, I mask my emotions and don't address them, I'm demotivated in everything, I'm pessimistic, but at least I know my faults and I'll work on them. I'm spineless, although I'd like to say I've improved. And why does my partner still want to marry me? No clue. Maybe I'm hot. Let him be. As for my studies, I just have a thesis year left. I'm sure my advisor can agree to meet online. Edit to add, I think I'm angrier at one of my friends more than anything. After a whole year of just agreeing with me and being so supportive, she completely flipped her tone after I told her I'm getting married. She said, "It seems you are in a rush, why? And, you need a time break from him, to see for yourself. And, I think you need to focus on your own goals without a man in the picture." Maybe I'm paranoid, but I genuinely think my parents or sister got to her or something. I let her be. I won't argue back.